G'day Bomber fans, late upload, apologies, but better late than ever. And speaking of late, it took us a couple of weeks, but our AFLW team are finally off and running. We've defeated the West Coast Eagles away from home pretty comfortably in the end. We got the win despite missing a bunch of our best players. So let's talk about it. Here is the round 2 AFLW match review. Quick little quarter by quarter recap. The first was a really frustrating one. We were completely dominating as we were against Freo the week before in the first quarter. It was living in our forward half, the pill. They didn't even have an inside 50 for the term, but we only managed 2 goals. Prasparkas did kick one after the siren, but it was ruled out for no apparent reason. The Eagles lifted a bit in the second to get some scores on us, but we did manage to respond even though we weren't playing great footy. The term was even, 2 goals, 1 apiece, but we still had much of the control of the game. The third was worrying. They were all over us for a bit. They got back within a goal at one stage. They had us sweating, and they could have even evened it up with a bit of accuracy, but we managed to respond pretty well and kick 2 back our way late thanks to leaders Steph Kane and Sophie Alexander. All we needed to do in the last was hold on to that lead, and that is exactly what we did. No goals were scored in that final term for either team, but we managed to just shut out the West Coast attacks and eat up time off the clock. We won the game with the first 3 quarters and really just iced it here, walking away 16-point winners despite a host of important players out injured. So let's talk about this win, our first of the year. How did we get it done? Well, our pressure was pretty intense. The Eagles are a young and pretty average team, unfortunately for them, and Daisy Pearce is trying to drill in contest pressure pretty hard to get them to lift, but our girls were just a lot tougher at the ball. And it started in the midfield with Prasparkas and Nanscorn and Kane. Those 3 were really tough at it all day. I thought our pressure in the forward half as well was just immense. 21 tackles inside 50 shows you that. And it's why we locked the ball in our forward half for so long, especially early. 13 inside 50 to 0 in that first quarter. And that was mostly because of great pressure at the ball. They obviously managed to lift late and fight back into the game and the contest. They matched our vibe, but that early pressure got us out to the same lead we won by pretty much. I think that first quarter was crucial for us winning the game, and there were similarities in the third when we kicked those goals, just forcing the ball forward and locking it in. Our backline was pretty great. Maddie Gay in particular was brilliant. She's a huge part in that defense now. Spoiler alert, but I gave her my maximum votes. Intercepting as a team was first class. We had a good 20 to 30 more disposals than the Eagles, more contested possessions, more uncontested, but less turnovers, and that's really promising. We set up so well behind the ball, so there was always a presence around the footy. We got caught out the back once or twice, but aside from that, the goals were really from poor one-on-one or individual excellence from the Eagles. You felt like they were working so much harder to get their territory than we were as well, and that's because of the presence I spoke of earlier, the pressure, but also how well we were defending. Not just Gay, I thought Clark was solid, I thought Van der Heuvel, I could name more, but the point is, last week Freo had individuals get on top of our defenders, multiple, but this week I didn't really think that was the case at all. Going into the game, I was worried that we would struggle to find goal scorers. We lost Bonnie Toogood and Amber Clark from last week's game, and those 2 kicked the most and second most goals for the club respectively last season. And then just before the game, Georgia G was ruled out, which is an important loss for our ball movement. She's a great link player up forward. So those are 3 really important players to our scoring, all missing, and add Paige Scott to that as well, who's been injured for a little while now. But I was pleasantly surprised to see the range of scorers we had and how we managed to manage the loss of those players I spoke of before. Sophie Alexander was a presence as always. Steph Kane drifted forward to kick a goal. But I look at young Emily Goff, Chloe Adams in her first game, and Lily Rose Williamson as well in her first game. You had first year players hitting the scoreboard when others weren't able to do so. Prasparkas and Brooke Walker were options up there but couldn't finish their chances. Walker was playing in a new role that didn't really work, but it's still good that we have options to cover those massive losses. The question now is how we're going to go against better teams. We play the Saints next week, who are yet to lose a game and yet to concede a score above 30, so that is a massive test for the new look forward line, and we'll see if it struggles or not against a good team. Yeah, I mean, this is a good win. It wasn't a great win, nothing to tell the grandkids about in 20 years time, but it's a good win to get the monkey off the back. We can go into our next game now with a little bit more confidence that we wouldn't have had after that round 1 game against Freo. We got some tough games coming up. The last thing we needed was another unexpected loss. We did exactly what we needed to do with some unfortunate injuries to put us on the back foot. The opposition wasn't great. West Coast in the AFLW are not much better than West Coast in the AFL, but you can only beat who's in front of you. Hopefully we start to get some players back soon, but before we look at our next game against the Saints, we should have a look at the votes from this match. Alrighty, 1 vote to Bess Keeney, 14 touches, 9 tackles. She was great pushing up and back on that wing, lending hands between the arcs. 2 votes to Georgia Nanscorn, 25 touches, really hard at the ball again. Not as clean as she was last week, but still had a big impact in the middle of the ground. 3 votes to Steph Kane, who I thought had such a big impact despite only having 14 touches, especially early when it really mattered. She kicked to goal, had team high clearances, as she had so many contested possessions but was still so good with ball in hand. 4 votes to Maddie Prespakis, who was elite again, 27 touches. She was brutal in her attack on a footy. We need a player like that in the men's team. She is ferocious. But 5 votes to Maddie Gay. She was unbelievable down back. She's improved our defence so much. 24 touches, 22 of them kicks, 15 intercept possessions, double the amount of any other Essendon player. It was tough to split her and Prespakis, but I just thought she deserved the love after that performance. She killed pretty much every attack that came her way. Tough week to pick votes. Amelia Radford and Sophie Vanderheuvel may have been a tad unlucky. Steph Wales had a great contest in the ruck, but those are my votes. And now let's get on to a mini preview for the next weekend's game. My bad, before the preview, we should look at the overall votes tally. Maddie Prespakis has taken an early lead with back-to-back 4-vote games. She's one ahead of Georgia Nanscorn, who is off to a hot start. Maddie Gay is in 3rd place after her best on-ground performance this week. And from there, it's a close bunch with Bannister, Kane, and Wales, the last of the multiple vote getters. And Keeney and Gaylor round out the rest of the votes so far. Huge game coming up at Windy Hill next Sunday, 3 p.m, so a tad later than our other games so far. We're currently 13th. Our opponents, St Kilda, are currently 2nd after 2 cruisy victories. This is a game we probably would have been favourites to win before the year started, but now the Saints are in the box seat, you'd think we should be getting players back. Georgia G was a late out, so she could come back in. Elise Gamble will return from her suspension. Amber Clark will be out of concussion protocols, but will still need to be showing no lingering effects after that brutal head knock. So we could have a boost at selection. I reckon we will probably have a pretty good crowd out to the game as well. Fill the hill. Get out to the game if you aren't doing anything. No better way to lift a team than a crowd backing the team. It's a huge game for the season. We win, we probably enter the 8. We lose, and we have a really tough road left for us to make finals, which is the goal. So it's a game we really have to go in and win. It'll be tough though. The Saints are by no means an easy beat. Good test for the girls. Alright, well that is that. Good win for the girls. The monkeys off the back. The season is now started. It only gets harder from here, unfortunately. We have some really tough games coming up. The next 2 games are against 2 top 4 teams, so we really have our work cut out for us. I'll see you next week for some more AFLW content, but stay tuned to the channel this week to see some draft and trade videos and a cheeky little player grade video for the men's 2024 season. But that is all. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and go Bombers.